funding and support of systems-focused research is essential to answer the sustainability challenges of our agriculture and food system. SARE is leading the way through its systems research initiatives. Regardless of the targeted funding sources, getting needed funding is not simple, and researchers can be more successful if they follow the strategies and learn from the lessons of the exemplars. For land-grant university researchers, the experiences of Drs. Paul Mueller at North Carolina State and Vivian Allen at Texas Tech are most relevant. Dr. Mueller suggests that researchers need to start with a funding strategy. That strategy needs to include planned incomes and the steps to get there, and the entire funding strategy needs to be clearly articulated.
Funding is always a difficult problem, and you have to cobble together several strategies to make it work. We're fortunate in that we have a partnership at the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, in that it's a partnership between NC State University and NCA&T State University and our North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So those three sources are all contributing, and that's very helpful. Of course, the competitive grant funding is also key. But the point I'd like to make here is you can't run a program like this just depending on competitive grant funding, because that's never certain. We've been very successful, but you never know when you're going to get a grant or when you're going to be dry for a few years. So you have to have some base of continuing funding and support. And I'm sure in every situation this is different. There's no real formula to this. Because we've been fortunate and had some real significant base support from our institutions. The Department of Agriculture really owns the land that the farm's on, and they provide a staff that helps run the farm. And the colleges from each of the universities have provided support in terms of personnel and also some funding support. So putting all those things together is what makes it go.
Paul goes on to point out that funding agencies have a variety of objectives, and this variety of objectives needs to be taken into account in project design and implementation.
It's hard for funding agencies, it's hard for university administrations to fund projects where the results only are evident after 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. So that's been one of the difficulties in this kind of long-term work, that you lose people's attention span. They want results right away, and they need results right away to justify the resources that are going into the project. So one thing that we did with this project from the beginning was recognize that fact. So we tried to build in some ways that we could get some short-term results that would help us continue the project, but without compromising the long-term structure of the experiment.
Because of the recognition of the need for transdisciplinary work and implementation of the systems model for agricultural and food systems, funding opportunities are improving and can be captured with the right approach.
What I'm seeing now, not only from SARE, but from the new NIFA organization and even the National Science Foundation, these used to be funding agencies that were primarily focused on individual scientists. And more, what I see happening is they're wanting interdisciplinary teams. They don't want to fund one scientist like they did in the past. So I think there's a parallel there. And I don't think you can do systems research well without an interdisciplinary team.
Dr. Allen agrees about funding opportunities.
Over my career, which is now some number of years, I have seen a change in attitudes towards funding systems research and funding longer-term research. Some years ago, it was very difficult to find any source of funding that would commit to this type of project. lack of understanding, lack of availability of that funding structure was a very big issue. It is getting easier to find funding sources. The one that I've worked with from the beginning was the USDA SARE program. They early on recognized the need for systems research, and they are the ones that funded the first research that I was involved with in Virginia. And it got us started, and it got us started here in West Texas, on the Texas High Plains. And so that was an agency that did and does recognize the need for this type of research and for the longer term nature of it. There are others that are now beginning to look at this as more of a funding priority. A growing groundswell of voices are being raised in support of long-term research and funding to support that long-term research. The USDA, what was the CSRES program, is now the National Institute for Food and Agriculture, the NIFA program, has also now moved towards recognizing the need for longer-term systems-type research. And there are others that are doing this as well.
Charlie Jackson's strategy for funding is to provide practical results and include collaboration with other researchers.
So financial resources are really important. And one of the things that's exciting is that we did develop models out of this. And so we're able to help people that don't have the resources we had going into this learn from us, and we can help them. And it really has stepped. We're working with Chattanooga right now, and we're going to do a food and farm assessment in Chattanooga and a strategic plan for that city and how it's going to move forward in developing its local food system. Well, that's because we did this for ourselves. We were able to make all the mistakes and go down all the wrong roads and everything, and now we really understand it in a way that is much deeper and richer, and so we're able to take those out. And so I think that's an important resource that SARE deserves all the credit for, and it's what SARE's here for, is to create a body of knowledge so that other people can use it and share it and further their work.
From Anthony Flaccavento's perspective, SARE has been an important source of funds and is using the results to build a base of experience. Potential researchers who understand SARE's needs, according to Anthony, will not only be more likely to get funded, but also to produce useful products. Anthony Flaccavento describes how he has worked with SARE programs.
Specifically, I think SARE continues to be a very good source for funding. We have also found that local fundraising makes sense. You don't necessarily pitch your work as systems work, but if a piece of a healthy system, of course, is always the on-the-ground application. I'm one of those people that believe that if you do research completely separate from, or oftentimes we think prior to implementation, then you're absolutely going to miss some key things. So I'm a believer that they have to go on at the same time to the degree they can. That research can inform the practice, whether it's high tunnel research or whether it's brown marmorated stink bugs or whether it's economic research. It can inform it for sure, but so too does the practice inform the research. So when you're looking at funding, you're looking at not just funding research, but you're looking at funding implementation and practice. And so SARE is one of those relatively few opportunities to fund the analytical research component, but there's a lot more opportunities now to fund various legs, various elements of the implementation. My advice, because in the nonprofit world the tendency is to plan the heck out of things, to do feasibility studies till the cow comes home and all that stuff. It's all preliminary. The head work is all preliminary. And then when we've got the master plan, the market analysis, and the feasibility study, then we start to implement. I think that's a huge mistake. I think you jump in to the world of practice while you're while you're assessing the feasibility, while you're developing your plan. I think you end up with a messier process, but a much, much more solid base of knowledge, and you have a better base of experience from which to test that knowledge.
Successful systems researchers are also successful grant writers. Research results and funding are complementary. Good research builds strong reputations and the confidence of researchers. We all know that good research does not happen without financial support. We hope that the lessons that our exemplars have delivered, delivering practical results, designing research to meet the objectives of the funders, and effective communication will help you get the funding you need for your systems research project to be successful.